In this set of videos we're going to have a look at how we can extend the concepts we learned in the previous videos and how we can create some really cool effects and some professional looking websites with big images and some interesting scroll effects. So you can see here, if I scroll down this website that I've made, that the text and the content below the image scrolls over the top of the image without that moving. And this image is full screen, so no matter the size of your window, when you load it up it will take up the whole of your viewport. That's what we call this area that you can see within your window. So you can see the image adjusts automatically to fill that space. We've also got our familiar navigation up the top. We've got a couple of internal links here, and then this one is an external link. So if I click on that one, it opens in a new tab and takes me to an external website. Whereas if I click on one of these two here, it jumps to a different part of this website. And then I can click on this title here to take me back to the top. We've also got some interesting scroll effects. So when I scroll down, that image I have in the background, it stays in place, and all of our text and content below that scrolls up over the top of it. We've also set this navigation bar at the top to be fixed, so that wherever we go on the page we'll see that navigation bar. If you look closely as well, you can see there's a little shadow underneath. That's in line with material design principles, and it's a cool way of creating sort of a 3D effect on your website, so it looks like this navigation section is hovering over the rest of your page. Then we've got a text block, and we'll look at how we can make these consistent using classes, because we have a text block here. If I scroll down a bit more, we have another one there and another one at the bottom. Of course, we've got these images here, all sized nicely to be consistent, and again, when we resize our page, you can see how they resize as well, and we can look at how we can resize those images or have them wrap onto a new line, do a number of different types of things with what is effectively an image gallery. Then we get down to another big image section, and again we've got it fixed in the background, so as we scroll past, the image stays fixed but all the text and everything moves past it. There's also a gradient overlay on this image to create that blue effect, and that's to make it easier to read this text and also make it consistent with this section down here. It's especially important with the white text and all of the snow in the background to put that color overlay so we can see it. Again, both the summer image and the winter image use the concept of classes, which we'll explore in quite a bit of detail in this set of videos, so that we only have to write the CSS for those once, and we can apply it consistently across our page. Then down the bottom we have our footer, which uses the same colors as the header up the top to create that consistency. The colors here have been chosen because the colors of the Swiss flag are red and white, and we have some nice blue here in these other image overlays to create that contrast between those two colors. Before I started building that website, I sketched out on paper what I'd like it to look like, and this is a concept of a wireframe, and we're going to do the same when we're starting our larger projects, and it's a really good way to get an idea and a feel for the kind of layout you're after, and also start thinking about the concepts in HTML and CSS that you're going to need to use to build that layout. Notice that it's fairly rough, and I haven't spent too much time making it look pretty. This is just my initial concept idea, and we can refine that as we go. So straight away at the top you can see I've had the idea of my title, and I'm going to put my navigation elements on the right. I've identified that these two are going to be links within the page, and this is going to be an external link. And I've put in some of the HTML tags that I'm going to need to achieve that. I also put in this idea that maybe I'll add a box shadow to create a nice effect on that navigation element. Then I've got this cross section here. That's what we tend to use in our wireframe plans to represent an image, and I've said it's a full screen image. I'm going to call it a hero class. That's just a convention that the big bold image you see on your web page we tend to refer to as the hero image, and that's the name of the class that I'm going to give it. I've got this property here, 100VH. We'll see when we get to the CSS that that's what I'm going to use to make it fit to 100% of the height. This is a viewport height that stands for. And I want it to be fixed in position so that when I scroll it stays where it is. So I'm just thinking ahead because I know about some of these concepts. Some of these might be a bit new to you, but as you get more experience with building your websites, you'll be able to put in some of these comments as you're planning your website so you can have an idea of how you're going to go about making it. Then if I scroll down, you can see that I've decided I'm going to put a section around this text that I have here, and I'm going to give it another class name. And I've already decided that the maximum width I want it to be is 80% of the window that it's in, and there's going to be 150% line height, so that's going to create some space between the lines. And I've decided I want to have some margin on either side. Now this idea of using a section tag, is the idea of creating a container that's going to go around all of that text. And we looked at this briefly in the previous videos as well, but essentially we can then manipulate that container within our website without affecting the content within it. So we could put that whole container on the left or the right or in the middle. We could change the width, we could change the height, all sorts of things, and then we can change the content within that container. We've given it a class because, as I mentioned when we looked at the actual website, we're going to apply this same formatting, the same CSS to a number of different text blocks, and giving it this class name will allow us to do that. So scrolling down quickly, you'll see that I have another text block here, same class name, and another one at the bottom. Okay, then I've roughly sketched out an image gallery here. I thought I'd make this a little bit wider. Again, it's going to be in a section, so we're going to have this container that goes around all of the images. So that'll allow us to constrain our images to a certain width overall, and then we can have each image sized individually within that. And I said all of the images will be resized to be square. Then these larger image blocks that we have, again similar to at the top, I've put the text I want to have on the front, and I've given it a class name. Again, this is going to be another section. So hopefully you're starting to get the idea now that every major part or every major component of our page is going to be wrapped in a section tag, or we could also use div tags. That's something we haven't looked at yet, but some way of putting a container or a wrapper around all of that content so we can style it using CSS appropriately. So what I've done as part of my planning for this website is I've copied all of those wireframe sketches into a document, and then at the bottom of that document I've also started thinking about the colors that I might use. And under the color scheme heading I've put an image of the Swiss flag there, and it's a pretty simple flag. We have just the red and the white, so those are going to be the two key colors for my website. So I've just written a few notes here explaining that the block colors, the big blocks I want, are going to be that red, and there's going to be a lot of white space to just mirror the colors of the flag. And then I've copied in down here the different hex codes that I'm going to use, slightly different shade of red for an accent color, and then the same red color for the header and the footer sections. Then in terms of typography, I've decided that I'm going to use the font Railway. That's from fonts.google.com. It's a very clean, very modern font, and it's used a lot to create a professional looking website. So that's my planning for this website underway, and I'm ready to start making the HTML and CSS.